Your Excellency, my name is Stanley Mutinda. I am a beneficiary of MasterCard Foundation Scholarship. I did my master's at University of Cape Town. I did development economics, and currently I'm unemployed and looking for a job. So I have a question for you and for Ms. Roy. So currently in Africa, majority of population are under 25. And more often, most of them are not well represented. So my first question goes to you, Mr. President. So what are some of the initiatives that the government can put in place to make sure that young people have opportunities in the government, especially that you are in your last term? Then my second question goes to Ms. Roy. So when the foundation was working on the Young Africa Works, what are some of the measures or some of the initiatives that you put in place to make sure youth or young people are engaged when you are coming up with the strategy? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Let me first and foremost begin by thanking Rita and her entire board for working together with us in this initiative that is aimed at promoting, developing, giving opportunity and hope to the young people of this republic. Indeed, as you've just said, the majority of our country are under 25. There can be no success or successful Kenya without engaging and ensuring that that majority is taken care of. And this is one initiative which we shall talk about later. But let me first and foremost say, what has my government done and is doing to focus ourselves on young people? I think you will recall that one of the first initiatives we took was the issue of the 30% of government procurement. The whole objective of that was to ensure that young people and other disadvantaged groups who had previously been left out of mainstream government procurement were given by law an opportunity to participate in government procurement. And that was largely our youth, our women, and persons living with disability. So that was one program, and under that program, we have been able to give opportunity to young people, and those other groups as well, to the tune, I think, of about 150 billion Kenya shillings over that period. We have gone further, and we are now saying that we also want to make it easier for people to do business. We have been trying to make it easier for people to open and start new businesses by removing and streamlining how you register companies, how you are able to get your PIN number. We have different programs also, like Ajira, which we shall talk about also later, where we are now trying to create digital jobs for young people through opening up government services and allowing young people to engage with different government departments like the judiciary, Hansard writing, and etc. And this is again more opportunity for young people. We're also focusing ourselves, and in this particular budget, as you will note, we have done a tremendous amount to try and encourage and boost medium, small enterprises, again, which is really the source of employment for young people, because it's our informal sector really, which we are now trying to formalize without necessarily creating restrictions that will create the jobs for our young people. We've gone further and said we want to also look at our curriculum. Are we, as a country, giving our people and our young people and our children especially the necessary tools to enable them to prepare themselves for today's world. So we're doing a relook on our curriculum. We're focusing on TVET. We're ensuring now, and we're building TVET schools across the country. Almost every constituency will soon have a TVET, so that those who finish are also able to enter TVET, participate, and get practical skills that can enable them to become positive contributors of our society. So these are just a few of some of the initiatives that we as government are taking, and we are very happy at events like today, where we also participate with private sector who recognize that there is need for partnership, who recognize that this is a group that we need to focus upon, and are also putting their resources, their skills into this. And if we succeed in this, I believe that the future of Africa, which is our youth, is not only bright, but can actually turn our continent, not just Kenya, our continent, to become a true world leader in innovation and become a continent of hope, rather than how we are described today as a continent of despair and darkness. We don't want to be that way. Invest in our young people, and we become a continent of hope, of dignity, of light, and of prosperity.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's an honor to be with you here today, and thank you and your government for welcoming us to Kenya and for the collaboration which has resulted in Young Africa Works in Kenya. Thank you for your question. We are a young foundation. MasterCard Foundation was created in 2006, but sometime around 2010, when we started to think about how we could improve the livelihoods of young people, we said we need to consult young people. And that journey led us to form a youth think tank. Young people have been involved as reviewers, critiques, designers, and researchers in many of our programs. And so when we embarked on Young Africa Works, the first starting point was to run a number of consultations across multiple countries with young people, and to ask them for their ideas, ask them for their advice, and also to ask them about what kind of aspiration we should set, so that this strategy really lives, breathes, and reflects the values and the dreams and desires of young people, both in a very inspirational sense, but also in a very pragmatic sense. So as the day unfolds, you'll hear more about the tenets of Young Africa Works, which very, very much reflects what young people told us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your question as well. The step up to the mic still continues, so we have a roving mic. We have a question here.
Thank you, Adele. I am honored to stand here today and represent Kenyan youth. Your Excellency, Mr. President, Ms. Roy, my name is Michelle Dibo, and I stand here as a symbol. I represent voices of the Kenyan youth who would like to know how to get dignified, fulfilling, and sustainable opportunities within the creative system, which we know all over the world has been creating enterprises. So to you, Mr. President, is there a plan in our government to strategically support this sector to create more opportunities, especially since it has somehow been neglected in the formal education system? And to Ms. Roy, is the foundation considering other sectors which are not necessarily described as mainstream to offer such opportunities to the youth? Thank you.
I think that's precisely why we've said we need to be able to look at our curriculum and ask ourselves, are we arming our children with the right tools to enable them to meaningfully engage and become productive in future life? The area of arts, sports, are areas, as you've correctly said, have been neglected in our country and yet have a great potential of not only creating jobs, but creating wealth in Kenya. And this is an area that we have noted and we are focused upon. In fact, if you will recall, not just too long ago, we were involved in Minister here, Mushero, right, was involved in participating in a competition that was aimed at getting young people to sit down, my friend. To show what talents they have, as we were trying to say, okay, we get the top 20 in the hope that we can then connect them with Netflix and others across the world to see how we can get their productions to come out and be produced and shown. We're investing now in those sectors. We have created under Amina right now. Hakuna haja ya kusimama jameni, hizi siku za zamani. Under Amina, we have now the new Sports, Arts and Culture Fund, which is aimed again at supporting our young people in arts, in culture, in music. We are starting, and we hope to set up studios across the country, because that's been, and we figured that that's been one of the greatest obstacles, that young people have the talent, but they don't have the resources to develop these studios. So we want to create studios across the country where people can go and record or perform and make equipment available, because that's been one of the biggest problems. We're also trying to see how we can make Kenya once again a center to attract international companies, to make Kenya a destination for making movies, because again, you know, it's not just the art of acting alone. But you know, there are other areas, you know, I don't know, they are called grips, they are called what, they are called very many different things. So the more we are able to bring people to Kenya to make movies, the more opportunities we're also creating again for our young people. So it's an area that we have earmarked, that we are targeting, and we are very hopeful that in a few years' time, it will be a major center or growth sector in our country. So we're looking into that.
Michelle, thank you very much for your question. The creative industries is certainly something which we have our eye on, and we know that many, many young people love this particular space, whether it is in film or in videography, music, design, jewelry. I'm wearing some jewelry made by some young Kenyan designers, or whether it is in graphic design, creating websites. This is a huge area of interest, and so it's something which we are certainly looking at in a number of countries. We also, to echo the President's comments, this is an area where young people need access to skills. In some cases, they need access to tools. There is huge interest, and I think huge opportunity for entrepreneurship and for innovation, which young people can bring in spades to the creative sector. So thank you for raising this to us.
Thank you so much, Michelle. We'll move to this side of the room. There's a gentleman who had his hand up.
Thank you so much, Mr. President and Ms. Rita Roy. My name is Washira Warukira. You can call me Warooks also. I'm a beneficiary of MasterCard Foundation Scholars Program. I studied business administration from Ashesi University in Ghana, and I graduated in 2017. Now, when I came back, I decided to try arts. So I now draw, I do pencil sketch, and my last sketch was actually of you, Mr. President. Now, my main question that I have today is that young people, they want to take part in creating work, but now you realize that there are very many barriers to entry. Now, the first question for you, Your Excellency, is that some of those barriers are like licenses and the red tape or excessive bureaucracy. Is there a push by the government to change that? And for you, Ms. Roy, what's the foundation doing right now to help in barriers such as lack of capital? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arux. Thank you. I think, as I said in my first statement, one of the things that we're working very strongly for is to remove some of those barriers that have impinged or have resulted in people finding it very difficult, for example, to start a company. And we have made tremendous progress in that end, and we are still working towards that. Just by looking at the Doing Business Index, you can see that over this short space of time, Kenya has moved as a result of cleaning up our bureaucracies. We have moved from being, I think, number 110 in the world, now to number 61, and our hope is to move to even well below that in the next report that comes out. All of this is aimed at trying to make it easier for people to start businesses, making it easier to register your business, making it easier to access capital. We have, for example, this program that we're launching today. What is it all about? It is about enabling people like yourselves to have access to credit. We have a program that we are working on with other financial institutions called STAWI. There's a meeting we're having this morning where we've got other banks coming together, working with us as government, again with a view of making credit more readily and easily available, and to stop the kind of extortion, which is what I will call it, that small businesses are faced when they look for credit. I was talking to them this morning and they were telling me they were in Kondele, for example, in Kisumu, yesterday. And a young fellow who now previously was telling them that the only way he could access credit was through all these loan sharks at 15% per month. Now with this new STAWI product, we're able to give people credit at 9% per annum, which is now more reasonable, more acceptable, and because you can access that credit through your app, you have also the dignity of not necessarily having to queue up, to line up, to say who your grandmother was, who your father was, what he owns and doesn't own. It is you and your business proposal that gives you the ability to borrow that money. And this is what MasterCard is also joining. Equity is also joining on board, to be able to give, to make it that much easier for young people to start and to do business, and to be able to take advantage of the opportunities both in government but also in private sector. So I think this is some of the initiatives that we've been taking that are hopefully going to benefit people like yourselves and millions more, I hope, over the next few years, if we can continue to be focused in this manner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, and thank you for your question. I'm delighted to know you're a MasterCard Foundation scholar. Thank you. No question, across the continent, and certainly here in Kenya, we have heard time and time again that access to credit is really critical for young people to be able to even and it's about accessing markets. And this is, so finance alone is incredible, it's critical, but in of itself is also insufficient to enable, because there's a high mortality rate for young startups and for businesses. And so we're trying to look at everything holistically, what it takes to a company young people, young business owners, so that they have a higher rate of success, so they pursue their dreams. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a young gentleman at the front here, had his hand up.
Thank you, Adele. Mr. President and Ms. Rita Roy, my name is Agro Chieng. I'm a finalist at the Kenyatta University pursuing economics and statistics. I was a MasterCard Foundation beneficiary under the Wings to Fly program by Equity Group Foundation, MasterCard, and other partners. So my question is, you find that today not everyone gets the full-time work. So Your Excellency, how can the government support the informal sector that most youth engage in? And to Ms. Rita Roy, how will the Young African Work Strategy support the informal sector? Thank you.
You've called it the informal sector, and I think I've made the point already that this quote-unquote informal sector is the backbone of the Kenyan economy, but has not necessarily received the full extent of government support. And what we're saying is that we want to now move in a direction that formalizes the informal sector, makes it easier for people in the informal sector to start businesses. That's why all these issues, for example, of licenses. You remember not just too long ago when we had problems with the importers who were bringing in their goods and trying to sell them. And we went through and tried to address ourselves to what is making it difficult for these people to either import or trade in the goods and wares that they have. And we figured that there were too many licenses, too many procedures, too many protocols. I think there were almost, was it 15 steps that somebody needs to take. Now we've worked to reduce that to 4, right? We simplify the process, and then it makes it easier for you to do the business that you're doing. When we talk of credit, we have recognized that one of the biggest problems is credit. Access by SMEs to credit. These are the things that we are working on as government through the Youth Fund, the Women Fund, through STAWI, as we're talking about, through the partnership that we're now developing with MasterCard to give credit. We're talking about skills, because a lot of problems are related to lack of skills. This is why we are heavily investing in our activities, so that we can equip our people with the skills that they need to be able to do work. And really, I think, because I don't know if I'm going to have another question, but the key thing is to really also, and this we have to work on together as a nation, is to change the mentality that it is, what is the right word, without me sounding like I'm playing politics. You know, through hard work, through being upright, is how you will become a success. To remove this idea that it is possible and to make money quickly and easily. I don't know, we were hearing, I heard a quote not too long ago that somebody saying that what is important in a man is not the content of his brain, but the size of his wallet. We want to change that around and say it is the content of your brain that matters, right? And to build a culture, yeah, that hard work pays. And for us as government and all our partners to do what we can to support those hard-working, committed young people to have access to make themselves a success. but to recognize that that success doesn't come overnight. You were telling me before of some discussions that you were going on of somebody who says they've tried twice and failed. Yes, failure is part of success, you know? You need to fail sometimes in order to succeed. It's a question of how you stand up again that matters, right? So really, it needs to be a partnership. We need to change our mindset, but at the same time, as government, we need to ensure we're doing all the right things to make it easy and to facilitate our people to do business, and also to work with those who are successful, private sector and others, for them to also realize that we can also partner, and that if we together can get our young people to succeed, their success is also our success. So it is that partnership that takes us forward.
Thank you. I'm really glad to see you here today, and I'm so pleased to know that you are Wings to Fly scholar, graduate, and you're already at university. Thank you, and I'm sure everything that the President said about hard work, dedication, you're a testament to that. So thank you. Thank you for your question. When you talked about the informal economy, not only is it the backbone and in many ways the real economy, because that is it is reflective of lives of citizens here in Kenya, but in many, many other countries. Most of the work of our foundation, when it comes to young people, is about for young people who may or may not always have that opportunity to have a formal education. They may be in and out of school because of economic circumstances. And so you will find that Young Africa Works really speaks to young people at all walks of life, at all points in the journey, whether they're going through school, or whether they're out of school, or whether they've never had an opportunity to go to school. We are most interested in going to the parts of the economy where vast numbers of young people live, and find ways to enable them to acquire the skills that they need, the tools that they require, the financing, so that they can do something with their lives and improve their families. That's really my message as far as Young Africa Works is concerned. Thank you.
One more question. Her hand went up when we initially started.
Your Excellency, Ms. Rita, my name is Purity Kendi. I am from Laikipia County. I'm a MasterCard Foundation beneficiary. I did my degree at the University in Costa Rica, and currently working on my master's at the University of Florida. I came down here and I have a project on, it's called Kilimo Jijini. So if you hear of a lady that is doing farming in the city, that will be me, because I'm doing it in Kibera slum, that is Nairobi County. I want to talk on behalf of the young people that are seated here. I'm sure they're all looking at you and admiring you. I'm sure we all love what our president is doing and what Ms. Roy is doing. And they're wondering, this is a personal question. They're wondering, what were your dreams when you were younger? Maybe it's a question, it's something we would love to hear from you, because you were there. And yeah, we are very curious actually. I'll appreciate if you'd answer that. Thank you.
I think like every young person, I dreamt of being a success. I dreamt of, you know, everybody is a creature of the environment that you grow up in. So I would be lying if I didn't say I didn't want to be like my father. Everybody is a creature of the environment that you're in. And I think that's why we're saying we need to create a good, firm, moral grounding. We need to be able, and that's why even when we were in Narok the other day, and I made the issue of mental health and all of these issues central to my statement, is because I think we have lost that sense of family, that sense of grounding that some of us had the advantage of having earlier. We have become too individualistic, we have become too materialistic, and so a lot of our children are losing hope because of the kind of environment that we're growing in. So if I'm to be asked now what I would wish more so, and that's why I said in answer to the previous question, I think is we need to just get back and just recreate those values that our parents had and that we unfortunately have failed to pass on to our children. How do we recreate them so that we can build a generation of Kenyans who will have the same opportunity I have of dreaming to be a presidents, ministers, reiters, senior executives in corporations, and not just thinking, how am I going to get my next buck so that I can go and do, this and this nonsense, yeah? So anyway, mistaki kusema ingine. Thank you.
Some of you know my story, but I thank you so much, Purity, for asking the question. I grew up in a very small town, in very modest circumstances in Malaysia, and my father died when I was 14. And so it was all really thanks to my mom, who said, you can be anything you want to be. Anything you want to be. And just because you're her girl doesn't mean anything. You can be anything you want to be. And I have to say that, just as you mentioned, Mr. President, we're all, in some ways, creatures of our environment, and it is what we are exposed to early on. And I have to say that, in the beginning, when I was 9, I thought I'd be a teacher. When I was 14, I thought I'd be a journalist. And when I went on to school, I never expected a career in business, which was my career for most of my life. And then I found myself here at the foundation. But the one thing, when I look back, which is consistent, is I've always been a dreamer. And I think it's really, really important. If I have one message for all the young people here, in fact, for all the adults, all of us, it is so important not to stop dreaming. That's what keeps us going.
Thank you so much for answering all the questions. That's all the time that we have, unfortunately, because we do have a very extensive program. But I would love you to give a warm round of applause to the young people who bravely asked all their questions. Thank you so much.